Biodiversity Conservation Foundation is an NGO based in Tamil Nadu with a vision to visualize a society for promoting and assisting in healthy coexistence of human and wildlife and ultimately ensuring conservation of biodiversity. Strategic implementation of this mission drove us to handle research and reaching stakeholders in a very synchronized manner. Our research extends from ants to elephants and exploring effective management practices in the perspective of biodiversity conservation. With our wide research team, we were able to work from Nagapatnam to Valley of Flowers, stretching across different landscapes and different people with varied dependency on the ecosystem. In a nutshell, we connect nature with people and people with nature. So let's get connected today also in the virtual platform to experience nature in an enhanced dimension.
Good evening to you all. So I think we are celebrating the International Climate Change Day today about it, starting about the BCF, how it is going about it. And as we all know about it, that is the wetlands is a very most important ecosystem for the organisms in the animal kingdom and the plant kingdoms. And since it hosts about hundreds of species of flora in and around those wetlands, and especially we are first fond about mangroves and its associates, and we have a lot of birds too stay be in a wetland about it. They play a very important role, and this wetland is also very essential for the health, welfare, and safety of people who live in and around. But over past few years, what's really happening about it is wetlands have come under very severe threat. The reason is one is population explosions, another one is the pollutions due to discharge of industry and pharmaceutical sewage from the highly urbanized area, and then the conversion of wetlands into the state farms and other agriculture activities too. These are the various reasons now very pose about a very serious threat to these wetlands, especially the coastal wetlands into it. And that is how today I'm going to talk about it, how the restoration and protection of wetlands will help in the resilience on climate change. What is actually a wetland is about is that is a land where the water saturation is the dominant factor determining the nature of soil development and types of plants and animal communities living in the surrounding environment. And we all knew that it is one of the most productive ecosystems on the earth and provide many important services to human society. And even wetlands are also known as biodiversity hotspots. Up diversity of plants and animal species about it, because it acts and also it acts as a pollution filters from both point and non-point sources, which are very important for carbon sequestration and emissions too. And why it is important actually? Wetlands with they prevent flooding by holding water like a sponge. By doing so, they help keep river normal and filter and purify the surface water. Wetlands accept water during storms. Whenever the water levels are very high, and when water levels are very low, they release water. And they also support a large number of birds, mammals, reptiles, fish, invertebrates, and microorganisms. In the wetlands, they have முக்கியமான ஒரு forum for this conservation and vice of wetlands. That is, it is called as Ramsar Convention. The richness and usefulness of the wetlands was first brought to the notice of the world by a convention of wetlands which is held in Ramsar. Ramsar it is an Iranian city on the shores of Caspian Sea in 1971. And it plays a very important role, especially for the national action and international cooperation for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. And it defines actually wetlands of what? The areas of marsh, fen is nothing but the low-lying water area, peatland, or water, whether it is natural or artificial, permanent or temporary with water, that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salt, including areas of marine water with the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. And the wetlands classified into like inland wetlands as well as the coastal wetlands. Inland wetlands, it is natural. We call it lakes, ponds, oxbow lakes, swamp, marsh, and playas. Playa is nothing but low-lying areas in the desert areas, okay, because there might be water when there is rain. And man-made is nothing but reservoirs, tanks, abandoned quarries. In coastal wetlands, we have estuary, lagoon, creek, mangroves and coral reefs, etc. And man-made, we have salt pans and aquaculture. And what is exactly a climate change about this? And before coming to know about a climate change, what is a climate system? That is, we all know that weather is nothing but a state of atmosphere. Its temperature, humidity, wind, rainfall, and so on, hours to weeks. It is influenced by the oceans, land surfaces, and ice sheets, which together with atmosphere form what is called climate system. And climate change is a change in the pattern of weather and related changes in oceans, land surfaces, and ice sheets covering over timescales of decades or longer. And climate change may be due to natural processes such as changes in the sun's radiations, volcanoes, or internal variability in the climate system, or due to human influences such as changes in the composition of the atmosphere or land use. And how the wetlands play very important roles, okay, in this climate change. Wetlands can be vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, including changes in rainfall, temperature, sea levels, and extreme weather events. And they also play an important role in our responses to a changing climate through capturing and storing carbon to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and through moderating the impact of hazards such as flooding, storm surge, and sea level rise. And this plays, and in the முக்கியமா இந்த wetlands வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it plays a very important role in an urban scenario. And how the wetlands play a very, very important role in climate change mitigation and adaptations. The wise use and restoration of wetlands is essential to protect the stored carbon and reduce avoidable carbon emissions. That is, they are globally important carbon sinks, storing vast amounts of carbons, thereby helping to mitigate climate change. And coastal wetlands such as mangroves, salt marshes, and seagrass beds are very vital for the sequestration of blue carbon. Blue carbon is nothing but actually the carbon stored especially by the oceans and the coastal wetlands. And prioritizing wetland protection and restoration can enhance climate adaptations and resilience. As extreme weather events such as storms, flooding, droughts, and heat waves increase in frequency, wetland protections and restoration increases climate resilience by buffering communities from coastal storm surges, reducing wave damage and floods, and stabilizing shorelines, water supplies, and local microclimates. As such, wetlands are a very critical part of ecosystem-based adaptation practices designed to build community resilience and reduce disaster risk. And this is a point where exactly the Adyar Creek and Estuary restoration has been taken up, and also how it is being planned and how it is being implemented, and now how it rolled. That is a very important part which I'll be taking it. Wetlands also play a vital role in retaining water on the landscape, maintaining local climate and water cycles, and reducing temperature extremes. Of course, they store water from precipitations and slowly release it to the surrounding environment, which can also act as a recharge, groundwater aquifers, and maintain atmospheric water cycles. And they're also having a local cooling effect too. Protecting and restoring wetlands to increase climate mitigations and resilience delivers many co-benefits also. What are those benefits actually? Wetland conservation and restoration help protect against the effects of a changing climate. How? There are many ecological, cultural, and socio-economic benefits that wetlands provide that contribute to human well-being also, such as provision of food and clean water, support to livelihoods and biodiversities, and sites of spiritual and cultural importance. And as we all know about this Adyar Estuary and Creek, and the trust has taken up this as a first project, and the entire Tamil Nadu was was taking up this project too. And each and every department was contemplating, taking up this project. And initially it was the revenue department talking about it, and then finally this work was taken up under the municipal administration and water supply department. And thus Adyar Chennai River Restoration Trust, it works under the municipal administration department and is a special purpose vehicle. And this trust is headed by chief secretary of the trust, and we have other 9 other trustees of various departments like revenue, highways, Chennai, Greater Chennai corporations, and we have the Public Works Department, we have Environment and Forest Department, and also we have the Rural Development Department. So each and every department heads is the trustees of this trust, and that is how these trust plays a very important role in planning and as well as in executing also. It makes things very easy actually, and it is one forum where we can take the decision at one go, and then we can go for various implementations. And this Adyar estuary and creek was very highly degraded. It is hearts of Chennai, and it is nothing but it is a coastal system which is of the Adyar river ecosystems. And as we all knew about this, Adyar river is about 40 kilometers long, and it originates in the peri-urban of Chennai city, called as from an Adanu tank, which is in Guruvancheri, and it travels along towards the east, and it confluences near the Bay of Bengal, near the Adyar Theosophical Society, or rather the famous bridge what we call as Adyar Trivika Bridge. And it forms, and then it just curves along the northwestern area towards the inland areas, and towards the Mandavali Pakam, and then Arepuram and Forest Estate towards as Adyar Creek and Estuary. And this project is something where initially a lot of departments was involved, and as well as this was a lot of other institutions within Chennai was also involved in preparation of master plan and the execution of these projects also. And let me comment about this Adyar Creek and Estuary. This is a map, and this is what we call, this by the Bay of Bengal, and this is what the Adyar River. It just confluences into the Bay of Bengal, where near the southern, northern part of Theosophical Societies, and this is the Adyar Creek, and this is the western part of the Adyar Creek also. And this implementation, this is about 358 acres, and this implementation was taken in two phases, as I said earlier. There is 58 acres, which is especially only the creek area, and the phase 2 is about Adyar Creek and Estuary. And creek is the area where it is a parallel water body, and it is influenced only by the tides. And whereas the Adyar Estuary is the area where the river joins to the sea. And since it is a very highly sensible ecosystem, about highly sensitive ecosystem, but due to the public apathy and lack of knowledge, and due to the urban expansion in these areas, and this completely it is taken over by the pollutions, and as well as dumping of solid waste, and then a lot of illegal activities, hunting of whatever the birds used to be here, and that is what the area has been used about it. And in the year 2007, the master plan was prepared, and very important agency called as Pichanakulam Forest Consultant and Auroviran based consultant has been hired by the government to preparation of master plan, and they also started doing the execution part in phase 1. And this is how the area was, how degraded it was actually. It is full of Prosopis juliflora. The entire water body is covered with Prosopis juliflora, and a very hardy species of only fish used to be found here, and a lot of cows used to be grazing over here, and you can find those even houses inside the creek itself. About 200 families were staying here, and they were open defecating, and they were just dumping the solid waste, and they were just allowing the sewage entering into these areas, finally polluting the entire whatever the creek water body, a small creek water body about is. And initially the water spread area of this only about 5 acres over here. And these are the various constraints over here. We have these encroachments. We have nearly about sewage disposal from 6 points, and solid waste being dumped over here. And we also do have a lot of unorganized activity, like breaking of bricks, and having kind of repair shops over here, dumping of all those automobile spare parts over here. And what are the important components of this eco-restoration is? That is, the important components are nothing but is plantation of trees. Of what? It is tropical dry evergreen forest, we call it TDEF, mangroves, mangrove associates, water plants, reeds, medicinal plants, etc. Another is about small landscaping, that is for interactions with the public. The first stage what we did about is removal of debris. It is, we have quantified nearly about 2.6 lakhs cubic meters of debris. Sludge has been, garbage has been dumped over here. And in order to have the increase in water spread, as well as in enhance the tidal interaction in these areas, since it is a creek, and a quantity of around 2.66 lakhs cubic meters of debris has been removed from these areas, and these debris have been used, especially a majority of this debris have been used within the creek area to have a tranquility in aspects of plantation purposes, and the excess amount has been sent to these other areas where the low-lying areas has been filled for laying of roads, and as well as for the to prevent flooding in the Chennai cities areas also. And next stage is about the removal of Prosopis doliflora. And we all knew about this. Prosopis doliflora is an exotic species, and doesn't allow any other native species to thrive. And that is why we removed all this Prosopis doliflora, and we have gone for the plantation of native species. And we just started plantation after removal, after removing all the debris and forming of these little mounds along the edges of those water bodies, and we started planting the tropical dry evergreen forest and mangrove species in these places. And we have planted nearly about 172 species of plants in these areas, and we planted nearly about 6 to 7 mangrove species in this creeks area also. And mangroves is dominated by Abyssinia species, and we also planted Exocaria, we planted Acanthus, we planted Rhizophora into these areas also, since it is the most tidally influenced areas. And especially when this starting stage of department, when we have observed that a lot of sewage is being disposed in and garbage is being dumped in, and we need a lot of coordination with the line departments, and how it is started. And without the help of the line department, especially the Chennai corporations and public works department, and Chennai metro water and water supply department, which is in charge of the sewerage system in Chennai, without the help and without the coordination of these departments, this project would have not taken over, not been completed too. So at initial stage, before starting this project, to stop the plug in the sewage coming in, a lot of investigation has happened, and a lot of study has also happened at how much quantity of BOD load has entered in, and how much of nutrient has been entered into these areas, and turn these whatever the small water bodies into highly very eutrophic water bodies inside into this. So Metro Water, they started examining that how the sewage could be plugged and could be diverted to the main sewerage systems, and they have completely, and they have done it very successfully, and till date there is no sewage has entered into these Adyar Creek areas. And coming to about the garbage of dump, and this Chennai corporation is in charge of the garbage collection and dumping, and as well as treating these solid waste management in Chennai city area. And they played a very major role. They identified the hotspots of dumping into this Adyar Creek, and they stopped and they diverted, and they made sure that till date there is no garbage is be dumped. And we also do have securities within our area where these never occur once again into those all these areas also. And there is also a lot of non-point pollution also was there, and that is also was addressed, because we had institution like Anna University, like Center for Environmental Studies, and they had a lot of students, did a lot of projects, worked along with this Chennai River Restoration Trust, and they identified many hotspots within the catchment of these areas. And this in the catchment and along the department, we played department played a major role in stopping those kind of non-point source coming into this Adyar Creek area, and till now it has been maintained. And after the completion of this Adyar wetland complex, now this has become a hub for all these environmental educations, and as well as an open botanical grounds. And a lot of students has been coming in, and especially these local government schools. We have been invited, and we fund these schools, and we bring in the school kids in a government bus, and we orient them initially as what is exactly a wetland is, and how wetlands play a very major role in Chennai area. And we just show them around, and we do have education officers in our Adyar wetland, Adyar Ponga area. And after the completion of the site visit, they just sit around and say, they talk about it, how many birds they have seen, and how many butterflies they have seen, and how play a very and how these plants play a vital role in wetland ecosystems are. And we do a lot of environmental education and the private schools, and the private schools are allowed in along with their teachers, and they're charged with very minimum about 5 rupees per children. For government schools it is free. For private we charge 5 rupees per school children, and we do take them around and we orient them and we show some about small movies how these wetland complex play a very major role in the surrounding areas. And for general publics, the Adyar Punga, we allow them and with online booking, especially on Tuesdays, Thursday, and on Saturdays. And we do have a website called chennai.rivers.gov.in. There we have to go and do an online booking, and for 20 rupees for the adults, and on we have a guided tour. And this is what the before restoration was. That is, you can see that how this area was filled up with sewage, and how it is, also with the garbages, and how exotic the species all were. And we started desilting it and widening these areas, and this is what now the area is initially, and now this area is now filled up with all mangroves in these areas, and we have increased the tidal interactions, and that is how we can find a lot of estuarine species and entered in, and now they are just in these areas actually. And now it's a paradise for this avian fauna, especially in Adyar Creek. And I'd like to say a small statistics of these areas about it. That is, before the restoration started, we did have a survey in 2007 and 8. We found out, we observed about 147, 141 species actually, and in fish about 14, and amphibians we found out nearly 7. Reptiles we had 19, and birds we had about 88. But now in 1819 survey, we have observed about 368 species. And we have fish, we have amphibians, we have 10, and reptiles, we have 19, and birds, we have observed nearly about 120 species of birds in Adyar, and some are resident and some are even come to the migration periods too. And we have crabs, we have 13 species actually. When the initial time we never observed any crabs, but now we have observed about 13 species of crabs. And this coming about is phase two, and this phase two is about Adyar Creek and Estuary. That is the highlighted yellow part. It is about a phase two assignment, and that is also we do have a creek in the northern part, and as well as in the southern area, which confines to the area we have an estuary. As I said earlier, the creek is influenced only by the tidal activities, and estuary is an area where the river joins to the sea, and it is more defined by the characteristic of the water quality too. And very important components also in this, we have do monitoring pathways, plantations, especially with mangroves and terrestrial species. And we did a lot of desilting in these areas, in the creek areas. And another part is very bioengineering part. What is actually bioengineering about it? Stabilizing the bund with the plants. That is what called as bioengineering part. And it is not much different was as from phase 1 too. This area was filled with a lot of muck, and filled muck accumulated with all plastics, and we can say all of those bottle pieces, which just came through the floods from the upstream areas, and a lot of exotic species too, like Prosopis dodiflora along the edges as well as in the islands. And this is how the area was actually. You can see this, whatever the tidal interaction, that is, it never allowed a free flow of water. It got accumulated with a lot of sludge and muck, and full of plastics got accumulated along with this one. And we never had any kind of record of any fish or any other benthos present over here. We did study, but nil, because of this sewage contamination of these areas. So with the help of line departments, we did stop all the sewage and diverted permanently into all those things and all. And we did desilting in these areas, remove all those plastics and all those things and all. And we planted all mangroves along the edges, and mangrove associates on the upper side. And still on the upper side we had about terrestrial species. And after excavation, this is how the area looks. And this photo is about 2 years old, and this is how the area is about us. See how the clean water is. That is nothing but is a tidal water. We planted all mangroves, especially this Avicenna species and Rhizophora species and Exocaria. It's been planted along the edges all. So now we don't no plastics, and there is no sludge and mucks, and no sewage enters in, and now we have a lot of fishes into this water. And other interesting part about is nearby we have the Central Institute of Brackish Water Aquaculture. We have SIBA institutes is there. SIBA is now undergoing a lot of research activities in this water body, especially with crabs and as well as with fish, and how to support the local fishermen and how to increase their economy. That is what the research is. And before I just end up with this project, I'd like to highlight what exactly this CRRT is doing with other projects also. And when I talked about this, we called as integrated Coombe River Ecorestoration project. This
Yes.
Coombe River restoration is nothing but it is about 70 kilometers long, and it originates from a Coombe tank, and as well as diversion from the Cosastalia River and Coastal River, and it's about and it comes and conferences to the near the Napier Bridge actually. But although it is 72 kilometers long, but we have taken the restoration is only for 32 kilometers. And beyond that, what happens only peri-urban and rural areas and not much polluted the river about is. But downstream of 30 kilometers, we have a lot of pollutions. And why do we call this integrated Coombe about is? Initially, this Coombe restoration is taken with isolated by various departments, stopping of sewage, removal of garbages, or no removal of encroachment, all those things on. But in this project, all the departments are integrated together, and a master plan has been prepared with the discussion of a lot of stakeholders, reviewed by all the departments together, and CRRT being a nodal agency and as well as a funding agency, and that is how we started implementing now. So we have Public Works Department for desilting, we have Metro Water Department for stopping sewage, we have Chennai Corporation Department for removal of garbages, and we have Rural Development Department, we have Municipality, we have Tamil Nadu Slum Clearance Board for resettlement rehabilitation, that is the removal of encroachments within the river courses. Now the project is going on. And seeing our effective and as well as the positiveness and successful of the project, now we have taken up the Adyar River Restoration project too also. And since it is a 40 kilometers long, so what happened is the project, the Adyar Creek and Estuary, is nothing but is a coastal complex within the Adyar River ecosystem is. And beyond the Trivika Bridge, beyond the project area, we have taken up the restoration similar to Coombe River also, where all the land departments have got together and they are implementing it, and we are the nodal agencies. And other than this coastal wetland, especially, we do have wetlands in the northern side. We call it Adyar Creek. That is, we are preparing the master plan, and then very soon we'll be also taking up the restoration of Adyar Creek also. And we have taken the Coombe Estuary also. There also we do have plans to desilt and plant mangroves. Adyar Estuary we have already completed. And down south we have the Mutukadu, or otherwise called Kovaram Creek. And Mutukadu also we are preparing the master plan, and we'll be taking up the restorations as well as. And in addition to this Adyar and Coombe, there is also we call as man-made canal, Buckingham Canal. That is also what happens. We are preparing a master plan, and very soon it will be completed and approved. And that also implementation will going on. So as a whole, this Chennai system, or we call it Chennai Basin, right? So we'll be covering most of the Chennai Basin. We'll be taking up all these projects, and in due course, in about 10, 15 years, or maybe 20 years, we could see a fresh coastal wetland ecosystem as well as rivers, and as well as functioning as hydrologically, and as well as you can see as ecosystem values are, and finally we can see how is ecologically important and have a healthy environment in the Chennai systems. So that is all. I end my presentations, and I hope everyone is enjoyed and as well as got through line what I'm coming to say about it. Thank you all.